Vo- Isabelle is the brand new Netflix original film that just hit the streaming service. The film is directed and written by Leah McKendrick, and the film stars Zoe Deutsch as Jill, someone who is now living by herself in San Francisco, trying to make it as a baker working underneath the kitchen, led by Chef Baston, played by Nick Offerman. But while she's in San Francisco, her sister, Isabelle, played by Sierra Bravo, passes away due to cystic fibrosis, and she begins leaving voicemail messages for her deceased sister to help her really cope with her death and how to continue to go through life. But what she doesn't realize is someone is actually on the other line. We're also following Wes, played by Nick Robinson, who is a real estate agent in Austin, Texas, who just got a new work cell phone, and Isabelle's phone has now been transferred to Wes's phone. He begins to listen to these voicemails from Jill without her knowing, and he starts falling in love virtually and wants to finally meet her in person. Ben begins to see some very fascinating things and wants to take it to the next level, but will he tell her that he's basically been secretly listening to those voicemails? Also in the film is Harry Shum Jr. and director and writer Leah McKendrick, who play a couple, Andy and Brita, who are Wes's closest friends. And also, Lucas Gage is also in the film as a competitive chef in the same kitchen as Jill. The film is an hour and 58 minutes and is TV 14. Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new review here on Max Talks Movies. My name is Max, and we're talking Voicemails for Isabelle. And this is a movie that I knew nothing about from a plot synopsis perspective going in. Only thing I saw was who were the two leads, Zoe Deutsch and Nick Robinson. And because it's a Netflix movie and it felt like it would be a Netflix rom-com, I have very low expectations for movies like this. Really, for any rom-com, I have low expectations, but especially for Netflix romantic comedies, a very low bar. Even though I was very excited to see again Zoe Deutsch, who I'm a big, big fan of in the leading role. And I do think this will definitely be one of the bigger surprises of the year for me. Not that this is great, one of the best movies of the year, but I thought this was a thoroughly enjoyable romantic comedy that, yes, has those cheesy, corny moments in there, but this movie is definitely taking itself very seriously. It has very heavy topics. As I said, Jill has this very close bond with her sister who has cystic fibrosis and dies, and leaving voicemails for her in her mind. And there's a lot of sad moments, therapeutic moments in this movie. And it actually took me aback how serious, how heavy this movie was. But I think it added a lot to the emotional investment that I had in this film. But right off the bat, as I said earlier, the reason why I was excited for the movie was Zoe Deutsch, who I think is one of the really, and I say this sometimes with some actresses or actors, but truthfully, she is one of the most under the radar actresses we have in Hollywood. She just has never been in anything that big before from a leading perspective. But I've seen her in a lot of movies like this, like I've seen her in other Netflix rom-coms or just other comedies before. But she is terrific in this movie as Jill. You are really rooting for this character to come out of the other side of her sister's death, at least in a better place emotionally. Jill, throughout the entire film, is struggling with dating, and the only person she could confide with was her sister. She's struggling in her cooking career, and then this happens, and she's like, I don't think, she says it in the movie, but it's not that she just needs a man. She just needs her sister back in her mind. And I think it's a very relatable character. I think anyone who's gone through any sort of loss, especially a loss like this, like a sister, and even if you haven't lost someone like that, I think if you have a sibling out there, you can really put yourself in Jill's shoes and the relatability of what she's going through. And she is terrific in the movie because she's very charming, quirky charm, has that quirky charisma that is always there in a lot of her other performances. But when it needs to get very serious and heavy, she absolutely delivers and is single-handedly the best thing in this movie. Nick Robinson is also quite charming in his role. He single-handedly, I think, makes that character way more charming and interesting than what's on the page. I'll get to a problem with his character later, but he is very good. Nick Robinson and Zoe Deutsch, fun fact, they are high school friends, so they've known each other for a very long time. So they have instant, really good chemistry in this movie, and you can feel it the moment they meet on screen. You buy them as a couple, you want to see make it throughout the entire film, and their instant chemistry is very charming. As I said, the tough thing about romantic comedies is balancing tone. Do you want to take it seriously? Do you want to take it ridiculously? All of those things. But this movie does a really good job balancing serious, heavy topics with a very stereotypical romantic comedy formula, which this movie definitely falls. I like the side characters of Brita and Andy as well. Nick Offerman had a lot of fun playing a wannabe French baking chef. He was very good. But I was really like shockingly swept into the emotions, the comedy. I thought the movie was actually quite funny. And as I said, I was really, really rooting for Jill. And I think Zoe Deutch delivers one of the better romantic comedy performances I have seen in years. Now, to me, what really holds this movie back from being a great movie, an all-time great romantic comedy movie, is kind of the plot device and the concept of the movie. And that is that Wes, for like months and months and months, is secretly listening to very personal voicemails that Jill is leaving for her dead sister. And I do think it crosses the line. And it's a major plot device that I do think gets resolved a little too quickly in the movie. But the plot device itself made me very irky, I guess, because they go, and you've seen the trailer, they go through at least weeks in this kind of friendship relationship thing with the two of them without him telling her. And at times the movie felt a little gross to me because, again, I'm looking through it, the perspective because I care so much about Jill. It's very invasive. Like, imagine if you were leaving these voicemails for someone you loved, secretly this person was listening to them the whole time without you knowing. It's a pretty big blow. And it kind of shakes your system. It alters the way you are because I can understand those voicemails are very private. And I did think the plot device went a little too far. I think they could have had him earlier in the movie explain why he did what he did, but the movie waits way too long into the movie for him to finally tell her what he did. And I thought it came way too late into the movie. And for me, it was so close. I loved the characters, the world, and I thought this was definitely going to be one of the best rom-coms of the year. But to me, the biggest issue that really holds this movie back is this plot device that I thought was unnecessarily crossing the line to a point where I wasn't really rooting for at times for Jill to want to be in this romantic relationship with Wes. But overall, this is definitely one of the biggest surprises of the year. I really enjoyed Voicemails for Isabelle. For Netflix rom-coms, this is pretty top tier for Netflix romantic comedies, and hopefully Zoe Deutch gets a lot more roles, and Nick Robinson, following the success of this movie. So I'm giving this film, Voicemails for Isabelle, a 3.5 out of 5, one of the highest 3.5 out of 5 I can give. That is a 74%. What are you guys' thoughts on this movie? Let me know down in the comments. Like this video, subscribe to Max Talks Movies on YouTube and my Patreon, and I'll see you guys in another video very soon.